Plant ecologist here. I might be a bit biased, but plants are objectively awesome. Using energy from the sun, they convert carbon dioxide from the air into sugars. Animals can't photosynthesize, so we have to eat to get energy, which means that even if we're eating an animal, that energy came from a plant. We humans eat a lot of different kinds of plants. But what exactly are we eating? The terms we often use to describe foods aren't accurate, botanically speaking. For example, a coconut, not a nut. A strawberry, not a berry. But before we explore the food on our plates, let's take a brief look at plant anatomy and reproduction. I promise you're never going to look at your food the same way. About 90% of all plants flower. Flowers are reproductive organs. They contain the male and female parts defined by the kinds of gametes that they produce that are necessary for sexual reproduction. The male parts are called stamens. They produce pollen, which contain the male sex cells, or sperm. The female parts are called pistils. The ovary at the base of the pistil contains ovules, which are the female sex cells, or eggs. Plants can't move to have sex, so they generally either use animals or the wind to help them. Animal-pollinated flowers have showy petals to attract animals, like insects, birds, and even some mammals, while those that are wind-pollinated, such as many grass and tree flowers, don't bother with showy petals, but instead produce copious amounts of lightweight pollen that flies through the air and lands on other flowers. This is the type of pollen that's the source of many allergies. It's not from the flowers you see, it's from the flowers you really don't see. When sperm from the pollen fertilizes an ovule, it develops into a seed. A seed contains the embryo and the embryo's food supply, and is surrounded by a coat to protect the embryo from drying out. The ovary then ripens around the seed to form a fruit. Animals then eat the fruit and help disperse the seeds. Fruits vary a lot depending on the species, and they're classified by their structure, texture, and the number of ovaries involved in their formation. For example, simple fruits develop from a single ovary of a single flower. They can be fleshy or dry. Aggregate fruits are formed from multiple ovaries of a single flower, and multiple fruits are formed from many flowers packed together. Here's a simple plant diagram. In general, a plant has roots and shoots. Now, importantly, just because the structure is underground doesn't mean it's a root. Leaves that usually photosynthesize, attach to a stem, often via a petiole, a stem that supports the plant, and vascular tissue that transports water and sugars through the plant. Okay, it is time to explore the plants on your plate. Now remember, a fruit is the mature ovary of a flower, a seed is a mature ovule, and a vegetable is any other part of the plant. First up, vegetables. You're probably going to recognize these foods as veggies. The more interesting question is, what part of the plant are we eating exactly? Let's start with roots. Carrots, radishes, beets, and parsnips are all roots. Shoots are the part of the plant that first comes out of the ground from the seed. Asparagus is a shoot. Stems support a plant. Sugarcane actually is from the stem of a grass plant. Tubers are underground stems. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, and yams are all tubers. No, they are not roots, but they're actually underground stems. Leaves. Now, there are many different kinds of lettuces for which we eat the leaves. Also, spinach, kale, arugula, cabbage are all leaves. Sometimes the leaves are actually underground. Onions and leeks are examples of underground leaves. Notice they're not roots. Can you see the little roots attached to the bottom? Petioles attach leaves to the stem. Celery is an example of a petiole. It's not a stalk. Rhubarb is another example of a petiole. And sometimes we eat flowers. Broccoli and cauliflower are actually flower buds, and so are artichokes. Next up, fruits. If it's just starting to get fun. See, the type of fruit a plant produces depends on the structure of its ovary. Plants that are related often have similar flowers and therefore similar fruits. Let me show you what I mean. Simple fruits develop from a single ovary, and there's different kinds of simple fruits. First, berries. Berries are fleshy, and they have seeds embedded in the flesh. Blueberries are a berry, but so are peppers, grapes, tomatoes, eggplants, avocados, and bananas. See, tomatoes are berries, not a vegetable. Pomes have an ovary that are fused with floral tubes. Apples and pears are pomes. Papos have a thick rind with a fleshy interior and many seeds. Cucumbers are pupos, and so are watermelons, pumpkins, zucchinis, cantaloupes, honeydews, and gourds. Drupes have a single seed encased in a hard pit, like a peach, and also like a mango, olive, apricot, cherry, plum, and coconut. See, not a nut. Hesperidiums are citrus fruits with leathery rinds and segmented flesh that are formed from individual carpels within the ovary. Oranges, lemons, limes, and grapefruits are all hesperidiums. A caryopsis is a fruit from a grass, often called a grain. Yes, corn is a fruit. It's a single-seeded fruit where the seed coat is fused with the ovary wall. Other examples of caryopses are wheat, rice, and barley. Fun fact, as a native Iowan, the amount of corn fruits I can eat in a single serving verges on obscene. Legumes are dry fruits that are split along two seams when they're ripe. Green beans, snow peas, and snap peas are all legumes. Actually, green beans are my favorite fruit. A nut is a fruit with a single seed and a hard shell that doesn't open on its own. Hazelnuts and chestnuts are examples of true botanical nuts. Aggregate fruits are formed from a single flower with multiple ovaries. Blackberries and strawberries are aggregate fruits. See, strawberry is not a berry. And multiple fruits are formed from multiple flowers that have fused together during development. Pineapples and figs are multiple fruits. And lastly, let's look at seeds. Now, we eat seeds from lots of different kinds of fruits, but there's two broad types of fruit seeds that we're going to talk about here. The first are legume seeds. Now remember, a legume is a dry fruit that splits along two seams. Peas, beans, soybeans, chickpeas, lentils are all legume seeds, and even peanuts. Peanuts are not nuts. And drupe seeds, here's where it really starts to get confusing, as a lot of fruits we call nuts are actually the seeds from drupes. Almonds, cashews, pistachios, walnuts, pecans, and coffee beans, see, not beans, are all actually the seeds of drupes. How'd you do? I told you plants were awesome, and I told you you'd never look at your food the same way again, right? The next time you're sitting down to a plate full of plants, I hope you ask yourself, what exactly am I eating? You are welcome.